Hey, welcome back. Let's get started. I'm going to talk a little bit today. I am not a bladesmith. I'm not a knife maker. But if you learn all the traditional blacksmithing techniques, which is, of course, making chisels, punches, and tools, you learn about how to harden blades and then temper them down. But when you get to the fit and finish, that's where, it's a lot of just practice and a lot of learning that I haven't done. But I thought I'd show you, in case you're interested and you want to make a knife, maybe you're just starting out, you got very little tools, you don't even have a forge, you don't have anything, but you want to make your first knife. And this is the way I was. Roll way back into the 1990s, before internet, before cell phones. They did have, mobile phones, which were basically car phones that were hardwired into the car and had a cord to the phone, or very expensive. I mean, it was like dollars or something per minute on the phone, and very few of them. But anyway, I think I may have had a pager then. I'm not even sure if I had a pager back when I did this. But I was getting Knife Illustrated magazine, and it was, and I really enjoyed it. Went to shops, went to all the stuff on knife making, but I didn't have any equipment. Still don't have a lot of equipment. I don't have a nice 2x72 grinder. I don't have a lot of stuff that knife makers have. But I wanted to make something. I was welding and doing, I was just doing basically welding and torch cutting and that kind of stuff, but I wasn't doing any kind of forging. Knew nothing about a forge, nothing, zero. But I really wanted to try to make a knife, and I ended up making, one year I made a whole bunch of knives and gave them out as Christmas presents. I also make these Horseshoe Cowboys. My wife would go to these craft shows, and she'd see something made out of metal, and she'd just draw a picture of it or something or describe it and bring it back home, and she wanted me to make her one. And I was still, reading these Knife Illustrated, really getting into knives, but I wanted to make my own. I like making my own a lot of things. So, you gotta remember, this is in the 90s, probably mid-90s, I don't even know when. No internet, no Google, no such thing as Facebook, no such thing as YouTube, no such thing as any of this stuff. Even when first web pages came out, and I was making my own web page, they were made in Word, and they were really just bizarre. But anyway, that's a whole different topic. So anyway, she went and saw these craft shows, and she saw these Horseshoe Cowboys, and they're mostly, like I said, welding and steel. But like this is one that I make out of horseshoes, and then I drill the handle, and I make a wire, copper wire, and you have a little lasso. And then I paint it, and then put a little scarf on them. This one's getting a little messed up. I made these for a craft show, and they never sold. I actually sold some afterwards. I saw it at the craft show, and I had them on my Etsy page. And this one I just did because it was fun. Anyway, I did some before, back in the 90s. I did some that were golfers, and they were putting and all kind of things. Anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about. So I started wanting to make a knife, and I told a guy at church one time, he was an older gentleman, and he had a business doing these, like Wood Miser, that's a brand name, but it's these bandsaws that have it's just like a regular small bandsaw that you cut stuff off on a table. It has a loop blade in it, but this is huge, and they're meant to, slice logs into boards, that kind of thing, and it feeds through. And so he brought me, they were real rusty, but there were some broken chunks of that just coiled up, and so I cut off some pieces of it. And this is not one of them, this is somebody got later on, but this is the same kind of a thing. You see, now this one has little smaller teeth on it. The one I had before, I think, had bigger teeth on it. But this was, like I said, this 30, well, not quite 30, maybe 25 years ago. But see, they're already hardened and tempered, and they're high carbon steel. So I don't know what kind of steel. Don't ask me. I don't know. So what I did is I'll show all this in steps here in a minute, but I ground off the teeth. And the only trick to this, if you're making them out of these, just remember to never let it get hot. Always be to where you can touch it so that you don't lose the tempering in them and the hardness. But then I would cut them into chunks, and I would grind off the teeth like this. So, and this one's about an 8-inch long, so many millimeters, but an 8-inch long one. And I would cut them in 8-inch lengths from the big piece, and then I would shape them down to whatever shape I wanted. And these are just 2. And what I did is I made these and I gave them all out as Christmas presents. So like my mother at the time, I gave her a knife, or I think it's 1 or 2 knives. I forgot what I gave her. So I made several knives. So I gave her a knife, and I gave her a Horseshoe Cowboy thing. And then same with my sister. Gave my in-laws a knife. And I made 3 or 4 for us. And I still use them today. These are 25 years old. I made this one shaped like this, just trying different shapes. And you can see these handles, they're meant for, and I wear a double extra large glove, so they're meant for large hands. My wife and them don't like these because they're so big, and I put little finger tabs in there so that, I was trying to find some way to make it comfortable. I bought some rivets. These were harder to work with because they actually, it's more like a nail going in, like a male-female nail ends. I don't know what kind of rivets are called. I don't have any copper rivets for this stuff. I'll have to use something else. But these are just 2 of them I made. And like I said, this is way before anything. But they hold an edge really well, and and they sharpen good. I didn't even, like I said, didn't have a belt sander or anything. So this is how I went around, setting mine up. I was at a different place we lived at and had an older workbench. I don't want to nail into my new wood workbench, so I'm going to use a board here. But I'll show you kind of what I did, except I'll use some screws instead of a nail, just because I got the screws handy. And this is how I made knives, and all I had was some welder, and that was and a few hand grinders, and that was just some small 4.5. I had like one 4.5-inch grinder and a 9-inch grinder. So that was it. So let's hook this down. Use some of my new Holdfasts. Like I said, I use nails, and I did have to clamp it on my workbench before, but it was just a small clamp. Forgot about that until I started doing this. Yeah, you forget things after 25 years. So then, decide where I want my blade to come back to. Let's just make a mark. You probably can't see that with a pencil, but I can. And then I just used a file. Probably need to have it a little bit more on the board than I have it, but this gives you an idea. And I did that, and I could still drill this, and I drilled in 3 holes, riveted it, and put the wood on. Now I'm making this one thinner. It's not going to be as wide as these. I'm going to try to make this a smaller version for my wife to use, even though she uses old hickory small handled knives, which are a little stiffer than these, but I mean, they're real stiff, even though it's made out of some really thin material. Once you get the handle on there, I mean, it's stiff. I mean, and I actually made some with, almost butcher knives. I left them the full 1-inch width, and then just kind of blunt rounded them. I don't know what you call that, just like a belly round on there. and made them so long, and same kind of handle and stuff, and can use it just like a regular old butcher knife. Now most old hickory butcher knives are thicker, but they work and they hold an edge well. Once you get them down to here and finished up, then you can just sharpen them like you do, with a file. Then you just use them on a sharpener. So let me show you the steps I went through to make them. So here's how I cut them off and do it. Like I said, I'm using power tools here, but everything I'm just touching them with a flap disc and all that, just to make them to where I can use them for where they're still touchable. They're not. I don't turn them blue. I don't let them, because once you do that, you done ruined it. So you don't want them turned blue. It's okay if it's on the handle end. If it's down at the handle end, it turns blue. Or if you turn blue on one end, just make the other end the blade, and just make this the handle, because that don't matter if you lose the temper on the handle side. It's just the blade you don't want to. So, and I cut these things up, and they're real simple. If you can't find one, get a hold of me, and I'll stick them out on a couple of these out on the Etsy page or something. I don't know. And y'all have a blessed day, and here's the making of them. Draw out the shape of the knife. I bought some extra belts online at I'll put the name of the place up here. They're abrasives, but I bought this is a 120, and I got some 36, and I think I got some 80 or something. 120, I think maybe 240, and I got a 400 and maybe an 800. I can't remember. And then that's high as they went with these belts for this cheap Harbor Freight thing. But then I found on Amazon some 1000, and I bought some of those, and I may try them out. And this is another little neat Harbor Freight cheap magnet. It's good for doing things on here that you don't want to lose your fingertips. You stick it on there and work with it that way. So let's see what we can do. And one thing, if you do have one of these, do get them, and if you use it for wood and metal, Make sure you take this bottom plastic guard off that collects all the sawdust and that, because I did some wood, got a bunch of sawdust in there, and I did some metal. Sparks went down, caught the sawdust on fire. Luckily I saw the smoke before it destroyed the thing. So just take that whole bottom piece off. It's just plastic junk anyway. So let's see what we can do. It's got a few little places on it, but for just a little kitchen knife out of a saw blade, and my Harbor Freight $40, roughly 40 bucks sander. Anyway, we'll just drill some holes and put some handles in it, and you have yourself a nice little kitchen knife as a gift. So y'all have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye bye.